Here's something that might change how you think about your smartphone. Scientists have discovered that people who rely heavily on GPS navigation are literally losing parts of their brain. The hippocampus, the region responsible for spatial memory and navigation, actually shrinks from lack of use. We've become so dependent on turn-by-turn directions that many of us are genuinely helpless without them. That's not just convenience, that's cognitive atrophy.
And here's the kicker. What's happening with GPS is just the beginning. We're standing at the edge of a much bigger transformation in how humans relate to technology. For 40 years, Steve Jobs' vision of the computer as a bicycle for the mind shaped everything about how we built and used digital tools. But that era is ending. We're moving into the age of the digital chauffeur. Welcome to Mindcast. I'm Will, and today we're diving deep into one of the most important transitions happening in our relationship with technology. We're exploring how computing is evolving from tools that amplify human intent to agents that assume cognitive labor entirely. By the end of our conversation, you'll understand why this shift from bicycle to chauffeur represents a fundamental crisis of human agency. You'll discover why previous attempts at AI assistants like the Apple Newton and Microsoft Clippy failed so spectacularly, and why today's AI is different. Most importantly, you'll walk away with 3 concrete strategies for navigating this transition without losing your cognitive edge. Because here's what we're really talking about. This isn't just about having smarter technology. It's about whether we become more capable humans or whether we gradually delegate our thinking to machines. The choice is ours, but only if we understand what's really happening. Let's start with our first key insight, the great metaphorical shift that's happening right under our noses. In the early 1980s, Steve Jobs popularized this beautiful idea of the computer as a bicycle for the mind. This wasn't just marketing speak, it was based on actual research. Jobs was referencing a study from Scientific American that measured the locomotive efficiency of different species. A human walking under their own power? Pretty efficient. A condor soaring through the sky? Even better. But a human on a bicycle? That combination blew everything else away, becoming the most efficient moving entity on the planet. Now here's the crucial part. The bicycle has no intelligence of its own. It doesn't suggest where to go, it doesn't steer itself, it doesn't pedal without you. It's pure amplification of human intent and energy. The human provides 100% of the direction, the power, and the navigation. The bicycle just makes you faster and more efficient at executing your own decisions. This is exactly how early personal computing worked. Take VisiCalc, the first electronic spreadsheet from 1979. When you built a budget in VisiCalc, you defined every single relationship. If cell A1 changed, cell B1 only updated because you explicitly programmed that dependency with a formula. The software had zero understanding of what a budget was. It didn't know if your business was profitable or hemorrhaging money. It just displayed numbers based on the arithmetic rules you gave it. VisiCalc was the perfect bicycle for the mind. It automated the drudgery. Those endless columns of addition and subtraction that would take hours by hand. But it left all the judgment, all the reasoning, all the creative problem-solving to you. You still had to know what questions to ask, how to structure the problem, what assumptions made sense. The computer made you faster and more accurate, but you remained completely in control. Fast forward to today, and we're dealing with something fundamentally different. ChatGPT doesn't just calculate what you tell it to calculate. It interprets your goals, makes assumptions about what you might want, suggests approaches you hadn't considered. It's not a bicycle waiting for you to pedal.
It's more like a chauffeur who asks, "Where would you like to go?" and then decides the route, navigates the traffic, and drives you there. This represents a shift from what researchers call cognitive extension to cognitive delegation. With a bicycle, you extend your capabilities. Your legs might get stronger, your balance improves, you become a better cyclist. But with a chauffeur, you delegate the capability entirely. And here's the critical question. When you delegate rather than extend, what happens to the human in the loop? This brings us to our second major insight. Why now? Why not before? Because the dream of the digital assistant isn't new. We've been trying to build helpful computer companions for decades, and the spectacular failures along the way tell us something crucial about what makes today's AI different. In 1987, Apple created a visionary concept video called the Knowledge Navigator. Set in the early 21st century, specifically September 2011, it showed a professor interacting with a bow-tied digital butler on a foldable tablet. The professor could speak naturally to this agent, which knew his schedule, searched university databases, and filtered phone calls based on priority. Sound familiar? This video predicted today's AI agents with uncanny accuracy. But when Apple tried to actually build this vision with the Newton in 1993, it was a disaster. The Newton was supposed to be your personal digital assistant. That's where the term PDA comes from. You could write "Lunch with Jeff tomorrow" with a stylus, tap an assist button, and the Newton would try to parse that sentence, identify Jeff from your contacts, find a free time slot, and create the appointment automatically. Sounds amazing, right? Except the Newton's handwriting recognition was absolutely terrible. It became a cultural punchline, especially after The Simpsons lampooned it. The Newton would turn "Eat up, Martha" into "Eat up, Mart." Here's the crucial lesson. A tool that misunderstands your intent is actually worse than a dumb tool that does exactly what you tell it to do. A paper diary never misinterprets your handwriting. The Newton did. Then came Microsoft Clippy in Office 97. If the Newton was a technical failure, Clippy was a social and psychological disaster. Clippy would watch what you were typing and interrupt with suggestions. "It looks like you're writing a letter. Would you like help?" Users absolutely despised it. Why? Because it violated a fundamental principle of human-computer interaction: user control. Clippy was unpredictable, distracting, and often wrong. It tried to be a chauffeur, taking control and making decisions when users just wanted to ride the bicycle. Time magazine eventually named Clippy one of the 50 worst inventions ever created. The failure of Clippy poisoned the well for assistant concepts for nearly 2 decades. These failures actually played out in a famous debate in 1997 between two brilliant researchers, Ben Schneiderman from the University of Maryland and Patty Mays from MIT. Their debate at a major human-computer interaction conference predicted exactly what we're grappling with today. Schneiderman argued for direct manipulation, interfaces where you see the object of interest and act on it directly. Think drag and drop, pinch to zoom, clicking and typing. His position was simple. People crave control, predictability, and responsibility. People are not machines, he said, and machines are not people. Human-to-human interaction models like conversation are fundamentally wrong for human-computer interaction. Mays pushed back hard. She argued that the digital world was becoming too complex for humans to manipulate directly. "We cannot just keep adding more sliders and buttons," she said. "At some point, the cognitive load of driving the bicycle becomes overwhelming." She advocated for software agents that would learn your preferences and act on your behalf. The user should be able to be a couch potato, she argued.
For about 25 years, Schneiderman's view dominated. Google Search, the iPhone, web applications, these were all tools we drove ourselves. Even early Siri was basically a sophisticated voice-activated command line. But starting around 2022 with ChatGPT, Mises' vision finally became technically feasible.
What makes today's AI agents different? 3 key capabilities that previous systems lacked. First, perception. Modern AI can actually see and understand the environment through screen reading, file access, and multimodal input. Second, reasoning. It uses large language models to plan sequences of actions to achieve high-level goals. And third, action. It has hands through API access to execute tasks like sending emails, querying databases, or deploying code.
This is the fulfillment of the chauffeur metaphor. You set the destination, increase sales by 10%, and the AI decides the route. Email campaigns, pricing adjustments, ad buys. It's no longer just amplifying your mechanical effort like VisiCalc did with arithmetic. It's assuming cognitive labor, the thinking, planning, and decision-making itself. Which brings us to our third and perhaps most important insight, the hidden costs. And this is where that GPS research I mentioned at the beginning becomes really relevant. Because what we're discovering is that when we delegate cognitive tasks to AI, we don't just save time and effort, we might actually be weakening our own cognitive muscles. The GPS effect is just the beginning. Studies show that people who rely heavily on GPS navigation experience measurable changes in brain structure. The hippocampus literally shrinks from lack of use. We've offloaded navigation so completely that many people are genuinely helpless without turn-by-turn directions. That's cognitive atrophy in action.
Now, imagine this effect spreading to writing, coding, analysis, and reasoning. If AI writes our emails and essays, do we lose the ability to structure complex thoughts? The chain of thought required to produce clear writing actually develops our reasoning capabilities. When that process is automated away, we get the result but lose the mental exercise that made us better thinkers. If AI agents write our code, developers risk becoming mere reviewers. They might lose the deep, tacit understanding of system logic needed to debug critical failures or innovate on architecture. These aren't hypothetical concerns. They're happening right now in organizations around the world. Here's what's really fascinating about Steve Jobs' bicycle metaphor. Riding a bicycle requires effort. That effort, the friction of pedaling, is actually where the learning happens. Your legs get stronger, your balance improves, you develop better judgment about speed and terrain. The struggle itself has value. An autonomous chauffeur removes that friction entirely. It presents you with the answer, not the process. And when you remove the struggle, you also remove what educational researchers call productive struggle, the kind of cognitive effort that leads to deep learning and insight. There's a concept called sudden redundancy of intelligence that suggests when we make thinking too easy, we actually think less effectively.
The ultimate risk is what military and aviation experts call human out-of-the-loop scenarios. Think about the progression. First, humans approve every AI action. That's human in the loop. Then, humans supervise and can override. That's human on the loop. Finally, the system acts autonomously. Human out of the loop. As AI agents become more capable, there's enormous temptation to move out of the loop entirely. Microsoft and other companies are building trust architectures specifically to encourage this delegation. But the result could be humans who are passengers in their own digital lives, no longer steering the bicycle, just watching the scenery pass by from the back seat.
So what does all of this mean for you? How do you navigate this shift from bicycle to chauffeur in your own work and life? Let me give you 3 concrete frameworks for thinking about this transition.
First, learn to distinguish between AI tools and AI agents. This is critical for maintaining conscious control over your interactions with AI. Tools amplify your intent. They do exactly what you tell them to do, faster and more accurately. Think spell check, calculators, or GitHub Copilot suggesting code that you review and approve. You're still driving moment by moment.
Agents, on the other hand, interpret your goals and pursue them autonomously. They make decisions, take actions, and present you with results. The key question to ask yourself is, am I controlling this interaction moment by moment, or am I setting a goal and letting the AI figure out how to achieve it? That distinction determines whether you're riding the bicycle or sitting in the passenger seat. Second, practice intentional cognitive effort. Remember that friction isn't always bad. Sometimes it's where the learning happens. When you use AI to help with writing, don't just copy and paste the output. Force yourself to understand the reasoning, edit the structure, add your own insights. When you use AI for analysis, make sure you can explain the logic to someone else. The goal isn't to avoid AI. That's neither practical nor desirable. The goal is to stay cognitively engaged even while using it. Think of it like physical fitness. You can use a car to get around, but you still need to exercise your muscles. Similarly, you can use AI to augment your thinking, but you still need to exercise your cognitive muscles. Third, design your own human-in-the-loop systems. This is about creating personal protocols for when you'll delegate to AI and when you'll stay in direct control. For routine, low-stakes tasks, maybe full delegation makes sense. For anything involving creativity, critical thinking, or high-stakes decisions, keep yourself actively in the loop. Here's a practical example. If you're using AI to draft an important email, don't just send what it generates. Read through it carefully. Make sure you understand every point being made and edit it to match your voice and judgment. You're using AI as a bicycle. It's making you faster and more efficient, but you're still steering. The key insight here is that this transition from bicycle to chauffeur isn't inherently good or bad. Like any powerful technology, it can be used wisely or poorly. The real challenge isn't technical, it's philosophical and psychological. How do we harness the incredible power of AI agents while preserving human agency, creativity, and cognitive capability? The researchers who studied this evolution suggest that the future belongs to AI systems that act more like tutors than chauffeurs, agents that explain their reasoning, keep humans engaged in the process, and ensure that while we may not need to pedal as hard, we never forget how to steer. Think about it this way. Steve Jobs' bicycle made you a more capable cyclist. The question we face now is whether AI agents will make us more capable humans, or whether they'll gradually turn us into passengers in our own digital lives. The choice is ours, but only if we stay conscious and intentional about how we interact with these powerful new tools. That's it for today's episode of Mindcast. I hope this framework helps you think differently about the AI tools and agents you're already using. Are they bicycles that amplify your capabilities or chauffeurs that replace them? And more importantly, which relationship do you actually want with these systems? If this conversation sparked something for you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts on social media, tag us at Mindcast, and let me know. Are you riding the bicycle or sitting in the passenger seat? How are you staying cognitively engaged while using AI? Your insights might help other listeners navigate this transition more thoughtfully. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Will, and this has been Mindcast, where we explore the ideas that shape how we think, work, and live in an age of intelligent machines. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and above all, keep steering.